I'm sorry, what? Oh, it's on the front. Wesley! Right? Thank you, sir. All right, and then Miranda is going to do the dot plot one for us. Miranda's doing awesome.
I know, she comes up like every single day.
Excuse me. Thank you, ma'am. All right. So Sam made more of a list. The histogram is unimodal, appears to be skewed right, which means we have possible outliers. The middle is approximately 3, and the spread is approximately 7. Only thing I would say that could make Sam's absolutely perfect is if he said possible high outliers. It's the only improvement I would make. Otherwise, he did great. Miranda made the list, which is how I show it. Shape unimodal, almost symmetric, no outliers. The center is about 85, and the spread is approximately 40. Now, walking around, I did have some of you mention you're still struggling with identifying the center of a histogram. You have to do your best to estimate. So if we look at the height of these bars, here's 10 on the Y, so I don't know, that's over halfway, so why don't we say that's about 7 pieces of data in that bar. Notice I said about 7. I'm estimating, which is why Sam put a safety word in there. The next one is not quite halfway in between 30 and 40, so why don't we go with 33?
First letter is socks.
Shape. And then this one looks pretty, well, might be slightly higher than 20. Would you guys say 20 or 21? 21. I don't know what you guys said, because I heard 20s, and whether you said 20 or 21, I'm going to hear 20. So I wrote 20. Sorry, Olivia. This one, if we were to, so it's not quite halfway. Let's go with 22.
You said the other one was 21, right?
I wrote 20.
Oh, okay.
And then this one looks like it's about 10, right? And then is this has got to be less than half.
I'll
So
go with 4 or 3.
I was going to say 3. Which one do you want to go with, Jennifer?
3.
Okay. And then we'll go with 1 for this, or 2. 1 or 2. All right. So 7 plus 33 is 40, plus 20 is 60, 22 is 82, then we have 92, 95, 97. If we take 97 and cut it in half, that'd be what, 48.5? So we're looking for the 49th piece of data, which would be 740. It's got to be in the 3, which is why Sam said the middle is approximately 3. Any other questions? Yes?
Can you show how to do a spread for the history?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the spread, 7 to, I would have said 1 because it doesn't technically touch 0, but the highest x is 7 and the lowest x is 0. So 7 minus 0 is 7, which is why Sam put approximately 7. If you put approximately 6, because you did 7 minus 1, because it doesn't touch the 0, that's a great answer as well.
So you just do the last number minus
Highest minus lowest. Any other questions? Last time, I forgot to put up the answers to the homework. I do that. I think because it's a textbook and my other classes, it's worksheets, so I've made the key with a textbook. I don't always remember. It's not something I do on purpose, so if I forget, please tell me. Be like, hey, put the key up. So 51, do you guys want me to zoom in? It's down here at the bottom right. Can you zoom in or?
Yeah,
Zoom in. Oh man, now I got movement. There we go. Also, I tend to assign odds. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's because the odds are in the back of the book. So you can check your work, or if you get stuck, you can look back there and hopefully get unstuck. I will say their explanations are not always the best in the back of the book, but sometimes seeing the answer kind of helps click something in our head. So I do assign odds so that you can check as you go. Can I flip? Then you had 52 and 53. So those are up there. 53 includes the graph. Yeah, I'm just at the end of this cold and I still get little tickles in my throat. Last period, oh, my voice was like, ugh. Sorry, it was. It'll probably do it again today, but I'll have Nolan read for me, so. Because you're nice and you read for me. Are we good? Can I go to the next one? I'm taking silence as a yes. I'm going to zoom out a little. Sorry, Nolan. Oh, I can't make them both fit. I haven't hung all the names, so if your name is missing, that's why. Or you didn't turn it. Can I move it to 59 and 60? Taking loudness as a yes. 59 and 60 are right there. Alright, quiet down please. Oh, 68 isn't a, I thought 68 was a multiple choice. That's what I get for trying to remember things. Alright, 68. It's right there. Then you had 70, 72, and 74.
Do you ever do work days in this class?
What?
Do we ever do like work days in this class? Or do we
Yeah.
notes every time?
We do get work days. What? Oh, Olivia thinks I'm lying.
I said not very often.
Not very often in the icky statistics, but we do. All right, questions from the homework. All right, today we're going to be looking at measures the center, and then we're going to be making a box plot, my favorite. I love box plots. So we will need your graphing calculators if you want to get those. Don't bring the textbook every day. I don't care about that.
I don't read the textbook.
Bring the calculator every
I'm
day.
gonna
Every
put a
day.
reminder on my phone.
Every day. That
I was thinking about it when I walked into the class. I did not. Your pretty purple one makes me want to buy a purple one.
We'll go buy a purple one.
I already have one.
All right, hands up if you don't have.
Can I use this one?
Wow, look at that. I got 3 over here and 3 over there. And then a
Can I
random.
use this one? Yeah. Because mine's already like this.
No, where's the chair?
Why is it like broken on the screen? Maybe I should have used this one. Never mind, can I get the purple one?
Or sharing?
Do you have the purple one?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah, the only two ones.
Please, I don't.
Just look it up. You have your hair.
We're good over here. Because I hear you call it a cheese. You're talking.
So
I'm gonna make a pie.
we know the symbols. We know the symbols.
It's summation
Oh,
and
that's what they equate it
The big thing.
that's
the
the
sum.
Put it in a different
yeah, it's what it calls.
How about the symbol itself?
So then,
Yeah, summations and change. And then N is average and then X is okay, wait.
we have to
Of course, we subscript.
Are we good? All right. Bring your calculators, people.
Can you tell Hadley to remind me?
Here's a school funded break.
Yeah.
All right. Nolan,
Yes.
will you read, please?
Alright. To describe a distribution numerically, we begin with the center of the distribution. There are 2 common measures of the center: mean, average value, and median, middle value.
Thank you, sir. So the mean means average, median means middle, just like he reminded us. You might want to put, put it up above so that you don't have to read my little paragraph. On the left, I put the formula for finding the mean. It looks really complicated. All it's telling you to do is add every piece of data and divide by the number of pieces you have. Just like if you were to find like your average GPA. Sorry, I didn't want to say average twice. GPA has average in there. So you would add the numbers for the grades you got in all your classes, divide by the number of classes you have, right? So it looks really complicated, but it's not. We use this symbol, X bar, to tell us we're working with the average. Over here on the right, I've reminded you about the most important thing when it comes to finding the median. To find the middle number, you have to put them in order first. If they're not in order and you just look and go, oh, there's 25 pieces of data, so I'm finding the 13th one, you're not finding the median unless they're in order. So, in this class, this does all of this for us. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this information into our lists. I want you to make 2 separate lists. Excuse me. We're going to put city data in list 1 and highway data in list 2. I showed you how to get to the lists before. Do we remember?
Yes. Second and highway.
That would be if we wanted to graph our data. Set?
Second stacked.
So that's misleading.
Or just stacked?
It's just stat. If you look above stat, it says list, so we would think we should hit second stat, but we don't. We just hit stat. And then we're going to choose edit. Now, if you have stuff in there from last class or the homework, we should clear it out. Remember, highlight the list name, clear, enter, and it'll clear it out for you. You're going to put the city data in list 1, highway data in list 2, and then we'll mess with it. You are at the top. Now hit enter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, and then I just type everything in, right?
Yes. Let me know if you guys have questions.
Yeah, no. It's
I had 21, I think.
Did you feed dark blue?
No,
Oh,
I have that dark blue one. But thank you.
22 is the amount of cars.
Should be, when you're on the empty one, yes, it should say 22. So there's 21 pieces of data. All right, looks like we've all about finished up. Anybody still typing?
me. I'm so
Okay.
To be fair, this is the first time I've done this. I didn't do it last class. So.
What's up?
That still is working.
So on histogram list 1, right? And then we go in there again on histogram list 2. Uh-huh. All right.
Okay, I'm done.
Good.
And they're both
Woohoo! Yay!
Wait, what do I do now?
I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, well, I didn't think we were the same stuff.
All right. Now I'm gonna show you guys how to find the average and how to find the median. There should be 21 pieces of data. We just started. 11:24. All right. So I'm going to show you with the city data, then you guys are going to get to practice with the highway data. So city data is in list 1. Hopefully yours is also in list 1. Try to get the glare off of there. So I'm going to hit stat. So I should be back at this menu. Edit is what we press when we want to get into the list to edit it. Then we have sort A and sort D. Sort A will take our data and make it ascending. Is that smallest to biggest or biggest to smallest? Smallest to biggest. Ascending means we start with the smallest and then we're going to end with the biggest. D means descending. So if you wanted to go biggest to smallest, you could get it in that order. So I'm going to choose 2, highlight or hit the number 2 button. And then it puts it in the home screen, and I want it to sort list 1, the city data. Stat, number 2. So then to get list 1, I have to hit second and then the 1 button, and it'll put the list 1 in there. Closing the parentheses really doesn't matter a whole lot, but it's a good habit to always close parentheses. And then I hit enter and it says done. Now if I go back into my list, so stat, edit, bless you. It's in order from smallest to biggest. So if there are 21 pieces of data, which hopefully you guys figured out this is miles per gallon because I have the car listed next to it. 21, what would be the middle piece of data? What's 21 cut in half? 10 and a half. So the 11th piece of data would be the middle. So that's where those numbers in the parentheses also come in handy. I scrolled down till it said list 111. So the median is 17 for us. By the way, median, we use a capital M, 17, and that's miles per gallon. That's one way to find the median. Now I'm going to show you another way. Any questions before I show the other way? Now you're ready for the easier one, Wesley?
Yeah, sure.
That was the hard one. All right,
Add 'em all
so
together.
no,
That's average. Yeah.
I want you to hit stat again for me, please. And this time we're going to hit the right arrow. So it takes us from edit being highlighted to calc being highlighted. And it should take you to a list like this. Are we good? We're going to choose one var stats. The very first option stands for one variable statistics. When I hit enter, it's going to ask for the list and the frequency list. If you're, Jenica, may I borrow yours? If you're working with an older one, it doesn't prompt you. It'll just, oops, can't see that. It'll just put one var stats into the home screen. You should put second one so that the calculator does the one variable statistics on list one. And then you would hit enter. On the newer ones where it prompts you, make sure it says list one, so second one. Do not put anything in frequency list. Go down, highlight calculate, and hit enter. Are we all good? So, very first statistic they give us is X bar, the average. So our average is 18 point, why don't we go to 2 decimal places? 18.05 miles per gallon. After the average, it gives us the sum of all the x's. So if I add all the city miles per gallon together, we'd get 379. The sum of all the x's squared, that's this one. And then we have, excuse me, 2 different standard deviations, which we will get into on Wednesday, which one we use and why. Here it tells me the number of data pieces. Then it gives me my minimum. And a little later today, I'll teach you what Q1 and Q3 mean. On the calculator, it puts MED for median. So notice median, we got it correct when we put it in order and found the middle piece. And then you have your max piece of data. Questions? All right, so I've showed you how to find the average and the median for the city data. I want you guys to please find the average and the median for the highway data. Oh, yeah, sure, Mason. What? Yeah. All right, Grace is going to put them up on the board for her. Oh, wait, no, did you forget to switch? Yes. Okay. 66, median 23. Anybody have any questions? All right. So, mean and median are both measures of center, but they behave very differently. So we're going to look at what happens when we get rid of the Honda Insight data. So I guess I shouldn't have pulled it up quite yet. You probably noticed the Honda Insight is a little different than the rest of the miles per gallon. So I'm going to show you again with city data, then you guys get to practice with the highway data. So we're going to see what happens when we get rid of what appears to be an outlier. So I'm going to go back into my list, so stat, and I'm going to choose edit. The Honda Insight for city is the 60. So since that's in order from smallest to biggest, if I scroll up, it'll actually get me to the bottom of the list quicker. So I'm going to highlight the 60. And to get rid of it, I hit delete, which is this one up here. We don't delete lists, but we can delete pieces of data. So if I highlight 60 and hit delete, it's gone from my list. Then I'm going to go back and find my new average and median, see how they changed. So I'm going to hit stat, go over to calc, and choose 1 bar stats. Make sure it says list 1 for your list. And when I get rid of the Honda Insight, notice that my average is now 15.95. And if I scroll down to see what my median is, it's 16.5. I'm going to zoom out a little so we can see both. So with the Honda Insight, my average was 18.05. Now it's 15.95. My median was 17, now it's 16 and a half. Which one changed more, the average or the median? The average. So you guys are going to do the same thing, but with the highway data. So I want you to get rid of the 66 from that list, and then find your new average and median for me. Oh, my pen is dying. Do you go do it on board, Anna? I was going to ask her, but I didn't want to make you give up out of your seat.
So it's like just write it?
Yeah.
This little. Right now?
Yes. All right. Anna's going to put the new average and median up for us.
Oh wait, I know.
Say that again. Did you get rid of the 66? Okay, so go over to calc. Choose 1 of our stats. And then So new average 22.6, new median 23. Which one changed more? The average. So this shows us a important characteristic difference between the mean and the median. The mean is what we would say is non-resistant to outliers, meaning that outliers really affect our average. So when we had the Honda Insight data in there, it was a high, well, what appeared to be a high outlier, and it pulled our mean towards it. So when we had those higher numbers, our means were higher. Median is what we would say is resistant to outliers. On our highway data, notice that when we got rid of the Honda Insight, the median actually didn't change at all. It stayed at 23. For the city data, it just changed slightly from 17 to 16 and a half. I said this, but I didn't write it, so now I'm going to write it. Mean is pulled towards the outliers. Any questions before we flip our paper over? All right. Somebody besides Nolan want to read for me? I mean, if I have to, I'll pick on them. Thanks, Jennifer.
Quartiles. When it comes to describing the spread of a distribution numerically, we can describe it by giving several percentiles. The p percentile of a distribution is the value such that p% of the observations fall at or below it. The median is the 50th percentile, so the use of percentiles to report spread is particularly appropriate when the median is our measure of center. The most commonly used percentiles other than the median are the quartiles.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, so a couple key things in there. P percentile of a distribution is the value such that p% of the observations fall at or below it. Median is the 50th percentile. We don't often call it that, but I'll be honest, in the textbook, and I've seen on old AP exams where they'll ask you for the 50th percentile instead of the median. To me, it's a trick question, but it is appropriate to use the two interchangeably. So, quartile. When you see that word, what do you think of?
Quarter.
Quarter, which is how many?
25.
A
Quarter.
4 or 25, because we're working with percentiles, which there's 100% of the data, and if we break it into 4 equal parts, we get 25% each. So the first quartile, which we use the notation capital Q with a subscript of 1, is the 25th percentile. 25% of the data are below I guess I should say fall at or below Q1. The median is the 50th percentile. It could also be called the second quartile technically, so that's another name for it. Sorry, I know I put my hand right over what I was writing. Could be the second quartile. So you could also see Q2, or you could be asked to find the 50th percentile. All of those are asking for the same thing. So quartile 1, 25th percentile. Median, 50th percentile. So the third quartile, or Q3, would be what percentile? 75. So 75% of the data falls at or below Q3. I just realized that I used bad grammar up above. Sorry. If I haven't told you yet, that's why I teach math. And then they give me the math that uses the most words. That shouldn't be there. I know that. I don't know why I put it there. All right, and then the other important part that we can use once we know quartiles is the interquartile range, IQR. The IQR is found by taking Q3 minus Q1. Q3 is the 75th percentile. Q1's the 25th percentile. So in essence, the IQR tells us the middle 50% of our data. May I move my paper up? No? I'm gonna slow, okay. All right, 5-number summary and box plots. I don't, somehow, make this stand out to you. Every year, I talk about the 5-number summary, and then on the first test, I ask for the 5-number summary, and kids go, well, when did you teach us that? I think they focus more on the box plot than the fact that the two go hand in hand. So if I'm asking for the 5-number summary, I'm probably then going to ask for a box plot because we use those 5 numbers to create our box plot. But I can just ask for those 5 numbers without a box plot. So, who wants to read, not Nolan, not Jenica? Shania, thank you.
A 5-number summary of a set of observations consists of the smallest observation, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the largest observation, written in order from smallest to largest. In symbols, the 5-number summary is...
Thank you. Minimum, Q1, median, Q3, max. which remember when we did the 1 var stats, I said, oh, I'll tell you what Q1 and Q3 mean. So if we go back to our data in here, I can't remember, was this was the highway data, right? I need to double check, sorry. No, this is city data because I don't do the highway data. You guys did that. So, let's just make a note so that we remember we're working with city data. And if you don't have this summary in front of you, remember stat. Yes, Seth?
That's the city data
Without the Honda Insight. Yes, thank you. So stat, go over to calc, 1var stats, list 1, hit calculate, and we get what I had previously. That way we should all be on the same page with our calculator. All right. So that was list 2. So type in list 1 after you hit 1var stats. If you scroll all the way down to that summary to the bottom, the last 5 pieces of information are your 5-number summary. So it gives us our min, Q1, median, Q3, and the max. So minimum is 9, Q1 is 12, the median is 16.5, Q3 is 20, and the max is 26. And I'm going to put lines in between those because my 16 and a half kind of ran into the 20. So when we make a box plot, all we're doing is using those 5 numbers to create a box with some whiskers that go off to the sides. We're going to, well, I'm going to use a ruler to make a number line. Do your best to make a straight line for yourself. Now, I have been doing this for a while, so I'm pretty good at making number lines. I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on you, Max. Box plots go above number lines, so I should have said that. That's on me. Make sure your number line is way down below, like so that you can put a box above it. I'm sorry, Max. So, when it comes to making number lines, you'll get quicker at it. I like to pick what I call pretty numbers. So my minimum is 9 and my maximum is 26. So I'm going to go 0 to 30 because to me those are prettier than trying to make a number line that starts at 9 and ends at 26. Then 10 and 20 should break this number line into thirds for me. We're doing it by hand, so it may not be perfect. In between each of those is 5s. So 5, 15, 25. And then I'm going to put the 4 little hash marks for the 1s, but I'm not going to label them because it should be pretty obvious that I'm going by 1s with all the other numbers. Then I'm going to put dots for my 5-number summary above the number line. So 9, 12, and try to put them in a straight line. We're going to do a little more with them in a minute. 16 and a half, 20, and 26. Any questions so far? The 3 middle ones, you're going to draw lines through. Try to make them about the same height, I guess you would call it. The first one looks a little longer than the others. Then I'm going to connect those 3 lines at the top and at the bottom and create my box. The minimum and the maximum, I draw lines out to, called whiskers. That's why you may have heard this called a box and whisker plot. This first point is the minimum. That first line is Q1, median, Q3, max. From the minimum to Q1 is what percent of our data? Say it louder, Tanner. 25%. From Q1 to the median is what percent of our data? 25%. From the median to Q3 is what percent of our data? 25%. From Q3 to the maximum? 25%. Questions? Can I flip to the back page? So on this one, we're going to talk about outliers, and we're going to modify our box plot, and I'm going to show you the calculator knows how to do it. I had you do it by hand, because really box plots aren't that hard, but the calculator will do it for us. So since we're going to talk about outliers, first thing I want to do is add the Honda Insight back into our list so that we have an outlier in there. So hit Stat, and we're going to edit, and then just go to the bottom of list 1 and put 60 back in there for me. And make sure you hit enter after 60. Oh, I was like, why is this one the same length? Because I never deleted 66 from there. Sorry, my brain. All right, so just like with histograms, box plots are under the stat plot, so we're going to hit second y equals. And you should be back here. Everybody good? I'm just going to go into plot 1. Remember, you should only have one plot on at a time, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, doesn't matter. But if you try to do too many different types at the same time, it'll get confusing. So, sorry, I want to show it on the older calculators as well. So make sure you're on, then go to type. Now if you notice after the histogram there are 2 box plots. Zoom in. The first box plot, notice it's got the whiskers and then there's a couple dots to the right. That means that this graph will automatically identify outliers for you. The next box plot will not. So don't ever use the fifth one. Always use the fourth one. Because even if there are not outliers, it'll still make a normal box plot for you. But if there are outliers, it'll automatically make them look different so that you know you have outliers. So always use that fourth one. So we're going to make sure that's turned on. We're working with list 1, and I love how so zoomed in magenta looks blue. On the older calculators, when you go to type, there we go. When you go to type, it's a little different because there's 2 rows. And you would think if you hit down, it would take you to the second row. It doesn't. It takes you to the list. So you just keep hitting to the right. Same thing on the older calculators. Use that first box plot with the dots at the end. And then this one, it has list 1 as the X list and the frequency. Frequency should say 1, like it does in this one. So if it changed it to something else, make sure you put 1. I don't know why that A means it's an alpha lock. So to type 1 in first, I have to hit alpha and then the number 1.
Mine doesn't have the outliers one. It just has the normal one.
What is that? 81? 82. Okay. Sorry. Put the light on so we can see the old one. It makes it hard to see this one. All right, so once we have all this in, then we're going to hit graph. I had a histogram in before, so that's the window it's working with. Remember to change your window. You hit zoom 9. And there's my box plot.
Could you just type it?
Yeah, I just hit zoom and then the number 9. I don't have to scroll all the way down. You're stuck on that screen?
Mine stays the one.
This without anything? Doesn't matter. Oh, you don't. You just and then hit zoom. 9. The number 9. Everybody good? I don't know. Take graph. Okay, I let my 3-year-old play with me all the time. So then we hit graph. Alright. Once you have your dot plot, if you hit trace, just like with the histograms, it'll go through and it'll tell you all the important things. It will not call the end of that whisker the maximum because the outlier is the maximum. Now, I know that I didn't get to explain these formulas. I will at the beginning of class on Wednesday. So if it asks you to use the outlier formula in your homework, you may skip it for now.
Thank you.